you that once the investigation was concluded, we would let you know. So the investigation was concluded last week. And so everything has been finalised now in the investigation. The outcome has been delivered as well. So the case has completely been closed now. Okay, so we just wanted to let you know that. And so obviously I'm not able to divulge the information of the investigation or the outcome, but we just wanted to let you know that the process has been followed through. And if there was any substantiation found to the allegations, they have been dealt with in accordance with the disciplinary procedure. So we do take that very seriously, as I was discussing with you, okay? And so I guess now what I wanted to discuss with you was going forward, what happens. So we did touch on it the other day when we spoke. And so basically what will happen now, I know that we have been separating you from Anna, so for this period of time whilst the investigation's taken place. And so now what will happen is it will revert back to normal rostering patterns. So I believe sometimes you did work together, sometimes you didn't, it just depends on your roster. And so we won't be able to make, I guess, any preferences over having you guys separate. However, we obviously won't do it on purpose to you know, the rostering will just be done ad hoc as normal. And so, you know, you're both team members and you'll just be rostered due to operational requirements, basically. Okay, so I guess I just wanted to get a feel for you, how you feel about that going forward, if there's any more support that we can give you. I guess if there's anything that we discussed the other day that you sort of had a bit more time to think about and you had some more questions.
I was wondering if the same thing happens again, where the same incident happens again, I just go ahead and report it to Jacky, or if Jacky's not available, the supervisor, and if it's after hours, to the after hours leader, and the case will then reopen again and then.
Yeah, so it depends on the allegations and the claims made. So if we feel that they're serious, that warrant another investigation, then we will open that again, and we will investigate. And obviously each case is on its own merit. So each case will take into account the information that we're given at the time. So if you do experience anything like that, and that's not just to say with Anna, it's obviously with anybody, then obviously you need to report that back. If it is with somebody new, I'm just talking hypothetical, we're hoping that none of that happens yet, obviously, but if it is, you know, somebody new, then we would always encourage you to try and solve it at local level, sort of what you have said that you tried to do with Anna in terms of telling her that you don't appreciate being touched and things like that. So we would always say that that would be the first part, but obviously if there's no joy there, then you would have to escalate it. But in the case of Anna, it would probably be just to escalate it straight away, and just make yourself feel safe and comfortable. However that is on that evening. I guess it depends whether it's day shift or night shift as well, and who's around and who's available to be able to support you straight away. But just know that whoever you report it to is bound to confidentiality.
Okay.
So, you know, if they can't, if it's, I know that you have a good relationship with Lisa. I'm not sure if you've spoken to the other supervisor, the other team leader, about it at all. But if you were to have to approach the other team leader, that person would also be bound to the same confidentiality that Love was bound to. Obviously, if feels that she would probably escalate it to Jacky or to myself or another HR member. So within reason, they would escalate it to where they feel they need to, okay? But it would remain confidential as it has this time, okay?
And in terms of Anna's behaviour, has protocol been put in place so that she won't, has she been told not to do that behaviour so that way she knows? Because if I've told her and she has done it, I've just told her not to, and
Anna is very aware of what is acceptable in the workplace and what is not acceptable in the workplace. Going forward, we have very much reset expectations with her. Whether that needed to be clarified or not, we have reset those expectations, and so it's expected that she would be professional, have a civil relationship with you, obviously professional relationship with you. And I guess that includes no touching at all. So yeah, so if you feel that that boundary has been pushed again, then you need to let us know. Okay. Does that help to answer? Obviously, I'm not able to give you, Anna also has rights to confidentiality as well throughout, and so that's why I can't give you the details, obviously, but I guess I can hopefully rest assured that, you know, any expectations that needed to be reset have been reset, and what we expect, our expectations of her going forward, and behaviour has also been reset. Okay.
That's why I wanted to just be very sure that she's not going to do that again to me, because it is
She shouldn't.
uncomfortable.
She shouldn't do.
Thank you so much.
Obviously, I can't speak on behalf of people, but from our end, we've done everything that we can do from an employer's stance and perspective, and so going forward, like I was saying to you I think it was last week that we caught up, like I was saying to you is, you know, we have a duty of care to make you feel safe at work, and there's processes and procedures in place to help that happen, and generally speaking, the outcome of the disciplinary will reset those expectations and that behaviour will stop, and that's our intention of disciplinary. Our intention of disciplinary isn't always to terminate employment or things like that, it's to correct behaviours. And so that is our intention by doing the disciplinary, the investigation, and hopefully that is what happens. Okay. And as you can appreciate, I guess for a little while going forward, it may be a bit of tension between the two of you. It's a little bit, maybe a bit of awkwardness and things like that. But hopefully over time that can settle. And if you feel that that is really something that's bothering you, or if you feel that there is something there, we can maybe facilitate a conversation between the two of you going forward in time. If that doesn't cease, you know, if you feel that that awkwardness is still there, we can try and do something about it. But I think if you give it a bit of time, maybe that will fall away. And yeah, you can both do the job that you need to do, and yeah, have that nice civil relationship, professional working relationship.
Thank you.
That's okay. Do you have any other questions, or?
When you say, I know that not to go into confidentiality, but when you say reset, does it mean to kind of reset the situation after disciplinary action, and then it kind of starts anew, so that way it becomes like a fresh kind of thing, and then it becomes like a moving forward, but like...
When I say resetting your expectations, basically what it means is, I guess at times perhaps people either forget or they misinterpret our policies and procedures in terms of what's acceptable in the workplace and what isn't acceptable in the workplace. So sometimes it takes, I guess, a resetting or a reminder of what those expectations are and what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So sort of telling somebody the boundaries, I guess. And I guess once they have that in their head again fresh, then they're able to then go forward and not perform the behaviours that are not acceptable.
I see.
Yeah, so whether that's through miscommunication or whether that is through not understanding what is required of them, or whether it is malicious, I'm not too sure, but it's just sort of a line in the sand where you go, right, so say it was you, it would be, right, our expectation is that you speak kindly to people, our expectation is that you don't breach any policies and procedures, our expectation is that you don't harass people when people talk to you and say that they don't feel comfortable with something, you listen to that, you take that on board. So it's just that resetting of what we expect from you in a workplace. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Yes,
okay.
Thank you.
Cool. So, and that can come from a range of different reasons. I can't say whether that's malicious or not malicious, or there was intent or not intent, but regardless, it's just to be sure that we're all on the same page with what is acceptable and what isn't acceptable.
Thank you so much for your help.
That's okay. That's no problem.
It really means a lot, because it has been causing me a lot of stress.
And I mean, when you were telling me about that last week, it was also quite distressing for me to hear that, because I could see that you were quite, I guess, quite affected by that past experience. And we talked about perhaps this experience being a bit triggering to you as well, and similar things that you reported to us, I guess, things that you saw that were similar to the last time. And yeah, so I mean, we did speak about last week about the employee assistance program. I know that you were a little hesitant to maybe access that, but just flagging with you again that you're able to access that at any time. It's completely confidential. We really don't find out who's accessed it, how many times, or anything like that. So it's a great service, and as I was saying to you, sometimes you do get a bit of a bad experience or not such a positive experience with counsellors or with doctors or all sorts of things in life, isn't it? And sometimes it's about giving it that second go or another go to find somebody who really resonates with you and who you're able to feel comfortable to chat with. Because I think that could be really beneficial to you. I could see that you were still quite traumatized by that, and that really got me, I was upset for you because I feel for you. I think that's a really awful thing to have gone through and not being supported by your workplace. So hopefully you felt different this time round, and had a bit more of a positive experience, even though it came from a bit of a negative experience. So yeah, I guess I encourage you to maybe look into that. And even if it's not the employee assistance program that you use, even if it's someone through a doctor referral or something like that, sometimes finding that right person can really make a difference in helping you to move forward from that, and maybe even give you some tools, if you leave our workplace and go to another workplace and things like that happen again, or even in just your personal life as well. Just some tools to be able to work through that. That can sometimes help.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any more questions?
No, I don't.
Jacky, do you have any questions or any further?
No, there was just feedback from a staff member that you went up to them and said, "Oh, you're like a Teletubby."
A Teletubby?
Yeah. That's all. That's not appropriate either. And it's just, if you did, you just really need to just be careful with what you say to people as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
And in terms of, I am allowed to, if Anna does so close against you to her, please keep your distance. Is that okay, or am I not allowed to say please keep your distance? I think there would be, you need to treat Anna like you would any other employee. Okay? So no different. She's still your workplace colleague, and so if you were to be standing this close to somebody and be okay with that, then you have to be okay with standing that close to Anna as well. So I think you can't pinpoint her and make her feel, I guess, vilified in a way, because she's gone through a process now. She's had an outcome. She's been investigated, and that's all closed out now. So your professional working relationship can't be impacted going forward. So if there are rules in place within the Department of Social Distancing, I'm not too sure, if those rules are in place and they're in place with everybody, then 100% you can act on that, because that is something that you do across the board. But I guess you can't.
We don't know that.
You don't know. So, if you are okay to sit next to somebody in the tea room this far away, and Anna comes and sits next to you in the tea room, you have to be okay with that, because she's not doing anything wrong. She's not doing anything different to another employee. However, if she was to touch you inappropriately again, that is a completely different story.
So if she was to just tap me on the shoulder or something, just given what the situation was and what she did, I don't want her to tap me or touch me.
Yeah, but is that her or is that anybody? Because what I'm saying, I go to people like that.
Mm.
So if that is acceptable for me to do that, it should be acceptable for Anna. It's more because that's,
If that makes you feel uncomfortable, I would assume that it makes you feel uncomfortable if anybody does that.
Because
So-
with Jacky, because I know that she's with good intention, not what Anna did. But because Anna has done the whole inappropriate touching, that I don't feel safe with her making contact with me at all. Because if I did say to her, "Don't touch me," after she did, and she continued to do so afterwards, then obviously she doesn't know. And I know that you've mentioned that you have reset the boundaries so that she knows not to touch inappropriately. But if my word of telling her not to touch me wasn't good enough, and she continues to do so,
So would you feel uncomfortable if I came up and tapped you on the shoulder?
no,
But you would feel uncomfortable if Anna did it?
I would. would.
So why? Just because of what you past experienced with Anna?
Yes, because if I tell her, because in the past when I told her not to do something and she's done it, then it's as if she has no respect for me as a person and she would try to.
Yes, but I think we also need to be, we need to, I would only assume that she wouldn't touch you at all going forward, because if I've been put through an investigation, regardless of the outcome, if I've been put through an investigation about touching somebody, I probably would avoid touching them at all costs, right? That's me. I can't say how she's going to act. But we also can't segregate somebody and treat them differently after investigation just because of what you believe that their intent was. Does that make sense? So if she is touching you on the bottom inappropriately, it's very easy to assume now, especially after being investigated, that her intent is malicious because there is no other reason why you would be doing that. But if she walks past you and she goes, hey, good to see you today, you can take that spot there or something like that, given the context of the conversation and what she's probably trying to do in terms of, she's probably not trying to make you feel uncomfortable, she's probably just trying to have some camaraderie, I guess, going forward. That's probably a bit of a different situation. There's nothing stopping you from saying to her, Anna, I really don't feel comfortable with any touching whatsoever, and see what she says, okay? There's nothing stopping you from making it very clear. However, there are, I guess, lines that we need to draw in terms of Anna then saying that she feels a bit bullied and pushed away by you too, right? Because that's not really fair in that regard. Not that she would, I'm not saying that she would, she might not even think of that, but what if she was to come in and say to me, I feel like I can't even speak to Karina now because anything I say to her, she's going to make allegations against me.
It's not because of it's about the touching, because you can pass an instruction to someone and say, oh,
yeah,
please go to this side. Right?
I appreciate that, but if you're comfortable with it with other people, that level of touch, then that's not really fair on her. I would only assume that she wouldn't touch you at all. So I guess let's just wait and see. We're talking a lot hypothetical scenarios that haven't actually happened yet, right? I would only assume she wouldn't touch you. But I think we have to be careful with segregating her as well. If you're acting very differently towards her than others, that's not really fair on her either. And in terms of, if the roles were reversed, okay, and you did something wrong, and you genuinely, I mean, we don't know her intent. You don't know her intent. Maybe she genuinely wanted to bother you. Maybe she genuinely didn't. And, and it's just that type of person. So I guess we've just got to be careful that we're not segregating her as well and making her feel uncomfortable in the workplace too, because she also has the right to feel safe and comfortable in the workplace. And if she feels as though you're going to put in a complaint about anything she does around you, that's not really fair on her. She's literally going to be walking on eggshells the whole time too. She also has to go back, and you have to go back into a workplace with her, but she also has to go back into a workplace with you now.
I understand that, but there is like personal boundaries. I know that
there are personal boundaries, but they are professional personal boundaries should be the same for everybody.
Yes, but no one else goes around touching each other's private part.
But we're not talking about that, we're talking about shoulders.
I know, but still, I mean, if after what has happened, she can't possibly think that it would be segregation for me to tell her not to touch me, because we have to respect other people's boundaries, but if she's going to not respect it, part of like, this is my body, and
okay, but you just said to me previously, can I say to her to keep her distance? Would you say that to other people?
If they were going and breaching my distance or breaching my personal space, I would.
So what do you deem personal space and boundaries with everybody?
Well,
like, would you sit this close to Anna in the tea room?
Yes, I would, but not this close in terms of like.
No, but would you sit that close to anybody in the workplace?
The tea room is pretty small.
Small, okay. So whatever distance you are happy to sit with Anna is what you should be sitting with everybody else.
Okay.
Because that's only fair. So for example, if Jackie's Anna, right, and you walk in and the only available spot is here, and you walk out because you don't want to sit next to her, but you'll sit next to anybody else, then that's not fair. She's not done anything wrong sitting on the table. Does that make sense? I think you probably need to have a think about going forward how you're going to communicate with Anna in a way that doesn't make her feel segregated as well. So if you would say to somebody else, what was the thing that you said that you wanted to say to her again? The personal space. Like this is like, yeah. If you would say that to other people, then I don't have a problem with you saying it to Anna. But if you're saying that to Anna because she's being investigated, that's not fair. Because she's not doing anything wrong by being in your space like everybody else is.
What I'm saying is, regardless of whether this incident happened or not, if she has tapped my shoulder and it has made me feel uncomfortable, and I say to her, regardless of the situation, forget that it ever happened that the inappropriate touching, and she touched me on my shoulder quite for me, and it made me feel uncomfortable because it was quite firm. And I say to her, Anna, please don't touch me, because it hurts. But I would say to anyone who does that to me, then that's not discrimination or segregation, because...
No, because if you were going to say that to anybody, if that was me, and you said that to me, Anna, Jackie, anybody, then that's fine, that's not a problem. I'm just saying you can't treat her differently to how you would treat your other team members going forward.
Yes.
Yeah, so if I touched you, sorry, quite fun, you would say to me, don't do that, Jacky, it hurts.
Yes, yes.
So if Anna touched you the same firmness, you would say the same to her.
Yes,
But if Anna didn't touch you that firm, it was just a thing like that, you would be okay with it. It's the firmness that you're talking about.
Yes, and also respecting someone's right to choose. Like if that person makes you feel uncomfortable, then you have a right to speak up about it to that person, to address that issue with them, which I have in the past. And this is what I'm basically saying is if that she does make me feel uncomfortable, I do have a right to say to her, and I feel uncomfortable with you.
Of course you always have a right to say that you feel uncomfortable, but I think you need to assess whether you are feeling uncomfortable because it's Anna, or whether you're feeling uncomfortable because of the action that's taking place. Does that make sense?
Yes, I would say it would be because of the action, because obviously if you're not that close to someone, or you don't talk to them as much because of shift or something, then you don't feel as comfortable with them until you get to know them better. And there's also boundaries as well too. You can't just go up to someone, go and smack them and say, oh hello there, and like it's only been about a few days before we need to go a place, as opposed to someone who you've spent years with or something, working in the same environment, and then you know that they're a person who likes to joke around and things like that. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that if I say to her, if something makes me feel uncomfortable about what she's doing, and I say to her, please don't do that again to me, then she should respect my boundaries. And it's not, and I would say to anyone that does it, not just her.
Yeah, and that's all I'm getting at, is that your boundaries should be the same for Anna as any other co-worker. So if regardless of whether it's Anna, me, Jackie, anybody, if something makes you feel uncomfortable, it makes you feel uncomfortable, but it's not just because it's Anna. Like you can't treat her differently to how you would treat other people. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah, because that's also not fair on her, on the flip side, you know, and both of you are employees, both of you have the right to feel safe and comfortable at work. And so, you know, if you constantly sort of fidgeting around her and trying to get out of her way and trying to have, like, you know, I think a while ago you said, oh, you know, I just want to have that social distance, a metre and a half, you know, social distancing you were saying to me last week, and it's like, that's not a problem. But if you don't do that with other people, and then you say to her, you need to be 1.5 metres away from me, well, she's probably going to turn around and say, well, why don't you say that to anybody else?
Which I would say that to anybody else as well too, if there was the case with me, 1.5 metre distance between someone else. But I also am careful about what I do as well too, to make sure that other people don't feel uncomfortable.
But I don't think that you can perform your job adequately with 1.5 metre distance in CSSD. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, but that was when you were trying to keep us, during the investigation, when you're trying to establish what happened, then when you try to keep a distance apart from us, that's when I said, if we do end up on the same shift, because of the fact that...
So this is before we moved you opposite shifts, okay.
Yes,
Yeah. So it's all fine, and I understand that you're going to be a little bit, and that's what I said. Like your relationship going forward is going to be a little bit awkward at 1st, and you're probably going to be, Anna's probably going to be walking on eggshells a little bit, and you're probably going to be darting around Anna trying not to get anywhere near her, right? But there has to come a time where that falls away for both of you, because otherwise it's going to affect your job. So you need to be able to work cohesively as a team on the shifts that you are allocated the same. You need to feel, both of you need to feel comfortable and safe in the workplace. You need to feel comfortable and safe around each other. And you need that building that trust between each other is going to take a little bit of time. Yeah. If anything makes you feel uncomfortable that she does or any other employee does, you definitely should address it with them at the time. Okay? If the behaviour stops, that's great. If it continues, that's when you need to escalate it.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for you moving forward to get that trust again, I think that will just take some time. But I think just reflecting on, how you are, whatever you say to her and that in the workplace, whatever actions you take with her in the workplace, just make sure that they're always professional, which I'm sure you will, okay?
Yes.
And just make sure that they are things that you would be saying to other people as well. That's all we can ask from you. Yeah. And then if you are unsure or if something feels a bit off, just go into the team leader, have a chat, go into Jacky, have a chat. If it's something that's bothering you a little bit, like, she's doing something that bothers you a little bit and you're a bit unsure, just go in and say to Jacky, look, Hannah's doing this at the moment, I'm a little unsure, like, I'm just feeling a bit funny about it. Jacky will probably be able to address it, straight away. Won't you?
No, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, have you got any other questions?
When in terms of joking around, if I said to the staff member, or like tell her because you wore the hat and because I wore the hat as well, and you had a thing on top, did you really have told me that it would have made him feel uncomfortable rather than because he was joking?
That person actually didn't say anything to me. It was, I got feedback.
Oh,
Yeah. So, yeah. But it's just, you need to be aware as well of what your actions are.
Okay.
For other people.
Because we were joking, so I thought that, in terms of joking, but because he was imitating my voice, and so
I don't really know what's happened, but I guess, see, that is how easy it is for something to get out of context, right? And it could also say, oh, but I was only joking, but I'm just saying, as an example. So you genuinely thought that you were just having a joke with that person, and it may not have been that person that actually overheard it or got offended. Heard it or got offended. That person might actually have been having a joke with you, but somebody in the distance who is out of that conversation hears it out of context and is offended by it. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
So we've always got to be careful with, who we're having a joke with, what we're saying in the workplace and things like that, because it can be misconstrued. And that's why, sometimes people's actions, they genuinely are not out to get the person. They're genuinely not out to call that person a Teletubby or anything like that. And they can be misconstrued, and so that's why, sometimes a little bit of patience is required, a little bit of, thinking about it.
Should I then have clarified with the person to ensure that there wasn't any miscommunication by saying that, I didn't mean any disrespect, right? I just, the other staff member and I were joking kind of thing, or should I?
Well, I guess you didn't even know the other staff member was maybe there, so that's the thing. So I guess, we just got to be careful with what we say in the workplace and know that other people are listening and they may take that out of context. And of course, if Jacky's giving you this feedback, your response to that was, well, I was actually having a conversation with this person. Okay, fine, it's just about being a bit mindful of our actions, of what we say, of things like that. So, you never know who's listening or who's, maybe a bit sensitive to something like that. That could be a triggering thing for somebody else, and so, yeah, it's just best to, at work, just be at work, yeah. Yeah.
Like when I focus on something and people say, oh, should I joke? Should I not joke? Or should I like be louder? And then, because in one of that same place as well, who I was talking to you about the other hospital, is that they said that what they would do is they'd say that I was quiet, and then when I used to speak up about it, they oh, they yelled at me, and then that's why I tend to speak quieter as well too, and I just keep to my job as well too, because, and then people wonder why I'm quiet, and then I just want to do my job, and not have, because if you,
I think it's a hard balance, but I think it's just about picking up on people's social cues a little bit. So, you're quite new in the department, so people probably not everybody's been able to build a relationship with you yet and form an opinion of you, right? Because anybody new, it's like people judge you to form an opinion about you, whether they like you, whether they don't like you, whether they want to get along with you or not, and within each group of people, I think there's like within each team, there's almost little groups of people that tend to, you tend to naturally gravitate, I guess, towards certain people within your team. And it might be, we're a team of 5, I'm really close with Jacky. I'm good with everybody else, but I'm really close with Jacky, and you might be really, really close with one of the other people. But we know each other really well. So when you're new, you still haven't established that as yet. Mm-hmm. And so I think what's best to do is not overthink it, just be who you are, okay? But be professional about it, obviously. And sometimes I say be who you are, and it needs to be appropriate to the workplace. But just be who you are. People will form their opinions, you'll form relationships, and once you've formed those relationships a little bit more and get to know these people a little bit more, you'll know who you're able to have a joke with. You'll know who you'll be able to have a bit more of an open conversation with, and who maybe is a little bit more conservative, and it's during those times when you're working with those people you just need to focus on work. Yes. Yeah, so it's about picking up on those social cues, understanding people and what they do in their personal lives a little more. So, sitting with people in the tea room and understanding what their hobbies are and things like that gives you things to be able to talk about, and maybe things that you should avoid talking about with certain people as well, so you're picking up on those social cues a little bit. So it's just about reading people a little bit, understanding it. You don't have to walk on eggshells, you don't have to justify everything that comes out of your mouth. Okay, but it's just about being mindful of what's being said, and whether that what's being said can be misconstrued perhaps, or something like that. So it's better to just have, I always say in the workplace, it's good to just have baseline conversation, what do you like to do out of work, what are your hobbies, do you have any pets, that kind of conversation, and you keep the relationship nice and neutral. When you start having jokes about things like appearance or things like that, it can always be misconstrued, whether you think it's a joke or not. So I just sort of stick to general conversation.
So if someone says to me, I'll be quiet, then should I be louder? So if someone says to me, I'll be quiet, should I be louder then? Or should
well, really, nobody has to comment on that. I would just be saying to people, I am what I am. Sometimes I'm quiet, sometimes I'm loud. It just depends on whether I'm working or not. We don't have to justify being quiet.
We have people that are really quite loud, and we have people that are just quiet, they go in, they do their work, and then they go out. Yeah. And that's just acceptable. It's all acceptable. As long as the people, when they're loud, they're not actually disturbing other people's focus on their job. That's basically it. If you are actually disturbing somebody else because you know that you've got to focus on what you're doing, if that person's focusing and then you're really loud and you're actually distracting them, well then that would be something. But I mean, if it's just your normal everyday thing, there's nothing. It's just,
Because I'm the type of person who likes to focus on the task, and because when you enter a new environment, you want to learn as much so that you don't disrupt the work environment, or cause there's the least amount of disruption as possible. And so I was trying to learn, and I did.
And that's what I said at the meeting the other day, that if somebody comes up and they are disturbing you while you're doing something, you just say to them, can I just answer you in a minute, wait until I finish this. That's it, because you do need to focus.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's just been, Then actually realising that you're actually having to do something. And I'm one of them. I go up and say, oh, thank you, and then, oh, sorry.
But also if someone says to me, can you, you're supposed to be helping me in this area, but I know, I have a feeling that I'm not supposed to be. They should take it as an offense, as an offense, or if I say, oh, I'd like to confirm it with the team leader or the supervisor.
I'll just say, oh yeah, no problem, but I'll just go and check whoever the team leader is, just in case they want me to finish this off or do something. Yeah, because the team leader, they're there to know the whole area, and so they know, they might want you to finish something there, and they can get somebody else to help. Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for coming in. I might just stay behind and have a chat with Jacky about another matter. So yeah, thank you very much. If you've got any questions, feel free to come in anytime, have a chat, okay? But yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. No worries.